The storm roared like an ancient beast, tearing across the open sea as the massive naval ship Titan's Valor fought to stay afloat. Waves the size of mountains slammed against its hull, and lightning split the sky with terrifying beauty. Inside the control room, alarms screamed like dying voices, red lights flashing against the anxious faces of the crew. The ship's mighty engine, the heart that powered their survival, had failed. The smell of burnt oil hung thick in the air, and every second without power meant they drifted closer to destruction. For a crew that trusted machines more than miracles, it was a nightmare beyond belief. Admiral Robert Kane stood motionless amid the chaos, his eyes locked on the flickering control screens. His face was carved with years of discipline, yet in that moment there was a shadow of something deeper, fear mixed with regret. The Titan's Valor was more than a vessel to him. It was a symbol of everything he had built, commanded, and sacrificed for. And now, as engineers ran from console to console, shouting reports he didn't want to hear, Robert realized that all the expertise and all the technology in the world couldn't save them. The engine had gone silent. The storm had taken command. Dozens of the Navy's best engineers tried everything: reboots, manual overrides, emergency bypasses, but the ship wouldn't respond. Each failed attempt drained what little hope remained. One officer approached with trembling hands and whispered, "Sir, we've tried all known protocols. The main drive's core is completely unresponsive." The Admiral didn't reply. His mind drifted far away, not to a manual or command order, but to a face he hadn't seen in years. A woman with sharp eyes, steady hands, and a mind that once changed everything he thought he knew about machines and about himself. Her name was Dr. Evelyn Shaw. Years ago, she had been the Navy's youngest chief engineer, a genius whose innovations had saved countless missions. She and Robert had worked side by side, sometimes arguing, often laughing, always creating. But something had broken between them, something that neither duty nor time could repair. She left the Navy quietly one night after a dispute over a project that risked too many lives for too little gain. Robert had watched her walk away under the pale dock lights, the sea wind carrying away words they never said. And now, as the Titan's Valor hung helpless in the storm, Robert's voice broke through the noise. "Find her," he ordered. "Find Dr. Shaw." The officers hesitated. It had been nearly a decade since she left. Some said she disappeared into civilian research. Others claimed she refused to have anything to do with the military again, but the Admiral's tone left no room for doubt. "If anyone can bring this ship back to life," he said quietly, "it's her." Hours later, a small helicopter cut through the storm and landed on the trembling deck. Out stepped Evelyn Shaw, older now, but her presence carried the same quiet power. Her dark hair was tied back, her coat soaked with rain, and her eyes, in sharp searching, swept over the chaos without fear. When she saw Robert, there was a flicker of emotion in her expression, something between anger and sorrow. Yet she didn't speak. She simply said, "Show me the engine room." The crew followed her down into the belly of the ship, where heat and smoke choked the air. The engine lay in ruins, blackened, warped, lifeless. Evelyn knelt beside it, her hands brushing over the twisted metal, her eyes narrowing as she listened, not to sound, but to silence. For her, machines had a language of their own, and this one was whispering something no one else could hear. She worked without hesitation, stripping away panels, tracing circuits, reading patterns others had missed. The engineers watched in awe as she dismantled the heart of the ship, piece by piece, her movements guided by instinct more than logic. Hours turned into a blur of sparks and shadows. Robert stood silently, watching her command the room. The storm outside raged on, but inside something else was stirring, a flicker of hope. Every bolt she turned seemed to pull them further away from despair. When fatigue set in, she didn't stop. She refused coffee, refused rest. "Machines don't rest," she said once, softly, as if to herself. "Not until they find their rhythm again." By dawn, the worst of the storm had passed. The crew gathered around, exhausted and waiting. Evelyn tightened the final connection, her hands trembling with the effort of the long night. Then she stood and looked at the Admiral. "Try it now," she said quietly. Robert gave the signal. The control room held its breath as the ignition sequence began. For a moment nothing happened, then a deep, powerful hum filled the air. The lights flickered back to life and the floor vibrated beneath their feet. The ship, once silent, roared like a living giant waking from death. Cheers erupted, echoing through the steel corridors. Men shouted, wept, and embraced. Evelyn didn't smile. She simply closed her eyes, a single tear tracing down her cheek as the sound of the engine filled her soul. Robert approached her slowly. "You did it," he said, but she shook her head. "No," she whispered, her voice breaking. "We did it, years ago. You just forgot how much trust matters between a machine and the people who built it." Her words carried a deeper meaning, one that reached far beyond the ship's hull. He understood then that this wasn't just about a broken engine. It was about all the unspoken things between them: pride, distance, regret, finally finding repair. When the Titan's valor reached safe waters, the morning sun cast gold across the sea. The crew called Evelyn a hero, but she quietly packed her tools and prepared to leave. Before she stepped onto the helicopter, Robert stopped her. "Evelyn," he said softly, "I should have called you sooner. Years sooner." She looked back at him, her expression unreadable, then offered a faint smile. "Some things," she said, "can only be rebuilt when they're truly broken." And with that, she turned and disappeared into the rising light. The Titan's valor sailed on, stronger than before. To the world, it was just another rescue mission. But to those who were there, it was a story of resilience, forgiveness, and the brilliance of a woman whose heart beat in rhythm with the machines she loved. Somewhere across the horizon, the sea carried her name, whispered not in rank or title, but in respect. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that sometimes the right person from your past can change your world, please take a moment to like and share this video. Your support helps us bring more stories like this to life. Special request to comment. Tell us in the comments, have you ever met someone whose presence, even after years apart, still had the power to fix what was broken inside you? Story by Legends of History, where every story breathes with courage, memory, and heart.